Zainab, I'm so excited to talk to you. I loved your special, and I have a lot of questions for you about your career and the content of the special, because you touched on a lot of different things that I thought were very interesting. So, to start, I know you're a native New Yorker, and I was wondering, like, because the comedy scene in New York is so popular and so famous, I wondered how the culture of New York and Harlem influenced your comedy style and how you chose to mix humor with a lot of harsh truths about your experiences.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know this about me, Alyssa, because I am from New York. I was born and raised in New York, but I actually started comedy in Los Angeles. Yeah, and I think because like I'm a good comic, people are like, no, she had to start in New York. But I think that I don't know. New York is a city that's so fast paced that I think you have to. You're always like thinking quickly on your feet. You're always taking in a lot because there's so much happening around you. You have to be very observant, and so I'm absolutely sure that that plays a part in my sensibilities. And I take my sensibility, like in my life, I take that onto the stage with me, right? And I think just specifically like the comedy and comics coming out of New York, they focus on like writing. They really focus on authenticity. And I do think that that's something that I have and wanted to make sure that came across in the special.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't know that, but I learned something today. Um, One of my favorite aspects of the special was your ability to laugh at your own jokes, which is something I really resonated with because I think I'm hilarious.
Yeah.
But also how you make so many great connections with the audience during the special, which I haven't seen many other comics do. I feel like it's very separated a lot of the time. Why do you think audience participation is so important in your comedy, and how do you think it sets you apart from other comedians in the circuit?
Well, I remember when I first started, comedians were always trying to find our voice, right? Like what is our thing, right? And I remember I realized that my style of comedy is like conversational. Like I always look at it and I approach it like I want these people to feel like they're stepping into my world. I want them to feel like they're sitting on a chair in my living room. And I want it to feel like a conversation. Most times it's a conversation that I'm leading, and I'm doing most of the talking. But I think with a good conversation, you're speaking and you're an active listener, right? So when I'm in a room, I have to actively listen to the audience. And that means listen to their reaction. You know what I'm saying? Listen to how they are receiving what I'm giving them. And it's like a constant exchange. It's reciprocal to me. I always tell people when they see any of my clips, if they watch my special, I'm like, this is great. And I'm really proud of it. But there's nothing like my live show. And it's because I'm so in tune with the audience. I don't let a moment go like unnoticed, if that makes sense. I'm not like somebody that's trying to do crowd work or trying to have the audience do the heavy lifting, but I am always very present in the room. And I was really, really particular. I shot this special in the round. And I shot it in a very intimate space. And the reason that I did that is because I wanted the people watching at home to feel like, oh, this must be what it feels like. Like, I feel like I was there. That's what I wanted them to feel like. I wanted you to feel like you were actually there.
Yeah, it's almost like one of those like fireside chats. It's very like intimate and close together. And there are even a few parts of the special where you said like, oh, he agrees with me, and like it's a good way to engage with everybody. And I love how you mentioned the group conversation because you incorporated a lot of stories about your siblings into your comedy. And you've also spoken about wanting to impact other Muslims through your comedy as you hope that people can relate to your experiences. Yeah. So how easily have you found that including your personal stories about your family. How do you think that's helped you build up your material for comedy and really increase that engagement? Because I think you were saying there were a few, you did like a Muslim shout out, like with your audience.
Yeah, well, with my family specifically, I feel almost too blessed, like, because it's like I have 12 siblings, and my parents really like to pull material from. There's people who like they got to go out into the world to find material. And I'm like, I wake up every day with material just given to me. So I think that that's a blessing. My family is a big part of me, me being from a large family, and just me growing up with so many different characters. It's the reason why I can navigate a room or an audience in the way I do, because I'm a middle kid. I grew up, I'm used to doing that. I do speak about my family in a very celebratory way. I do kind of feel like they're with me in some way, shape, or form when I'm on stage. And I think that that comes out because, of course, I talk about them so much. I become their characters on stage. In terms of, being Muslim, I just, as a civilian in the world or a bystander, I always felt like when I watched TV, whether it came by like scripted entertainment television or the news, I felt like there were very specific conversations and narratives being had about Muslims or the Muslim identity, and then more specifically the Muslim identity in America. And I never once felt like it was speaking to me. And I'm like, well, if I'm Muslim and I've been Muslim all my life and I'm having this very specific experience in life, but it's not being mirrored, in any sort of media, then maybe I can present another part of the conversation. So I'm not at all trying to like say I'm right at all. I'm just saying, here's some more. Here, let me add some more information by way of my life and my experience. And hopefully that helps other people feel seen.
Right. And I think that really showed through making it feels like a community watching your
Yeah.
special. It feels safe and it feels
Yeah.
like, we can be authentic. We can really just share. And it's not like, I never cared for any of the conversations going on about Black people, about Muslims, but it's not always very positive, but it's good that you're making light and it doesn't always have to be so heavy.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing too. Like I wasn't growing up like laughing at
Mm.
anything that was Islam related. Like, and when you think about it, like if you watch like old comedy, even sitcoms and things like that, there's always these very specific like church related jokes, right? And this humor that can be found by way of like the goings on of the church community, right? And it was like universally understood. And I'm like, well, wait, we're having a very human experience too. We laugh all the time. I laugh more than I do anything else. I laugh more than I cry. I laugh more than I'm shocked. I laugh more than like I laugh so much. And I'm like, well, what about being Muslim? What about talking about this experience? What about sharing this experience? Why is it not funny? I'm going to make it funny because I'm having humorous, I'm having funny experiences. I laugh all the time when I'm in the mosque. So why aren't we talking about it?
Yeah, it's almost like there's this notion that there's no joy in these communities, and it's
Yeah.
definitely needs to be squashed immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I wanted to talk to you because I'm very interested in people's career pivots. And I think it's really interesting how you started in comedy, because I know you originally studied math and
Yeah.
education, and you were on a track to be a teacher, which is so crazy to me, just like watching your comedy. But when you tried comedy for the first time, you fell in love with it. And I wanted to know, what was that experience like for you? kind of switching over, which can be super intimidating, but also how gratifying was it to find success in a completely different career path?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Alyssa, it really wasn't that hard of a switch. And here's why.
Good.
Because I did, once I was in college, I did decide that I was going to be an educator. Right. I'm like, okay, I think I want to teach. And when you want to teach, they ask you what you want to teach. And I'm like, I think I want to, or what age you want to teach. And I'm like, I think I want to teach high school. And when you want to teach high school, you have to choose something to major. You have to choose the discipline that you're going to teach. Right. And so I was always good at math. That's how I ended up with math. Right. Like I would never call myself like this mathematician. I would never claim that. Right. But I gave that up way before I ever started comedy. There was a period for me in between those two things where I was searching. I knew that I wanted to reach people, but I wasn't quite sure what my thing was, and teaching was kind of like a job. And I was looking for myself in the creative space, like what's my creative thing? Am I an improviser? You know what I'm saying? Am I I don't stand up was the last thing on my mind. The last thing that I think. I mean, I would have thought that I would be, a dramatic theater actress before I would have ever thought stand up. But I remember the first time I did it, it felt so right. I couldn't ignore it. It felt more right than anything I had ever done. And so it made the decision to keep doing it very easy. It almost felt like if I didn't do it, that would be wrong.
I know exactly what you mean, because I even just for me switching the kind of journalism that I do, it was a huge thing for me because I was doing regular news and it was really difficult because
Yeah.
a lot of the news isn't so positive, like we were talking about, but talking about entertainment, talking to various celebrities, it's so fun.
Mhm.
It's my interest. It's so much better.
Yeah.
So
But now, I guess the part of me that still does have like that analytical brain, which I do think helps me in comedy, it helps me put the pieces together, but also like I'm the type of person, I'm going to go to like the grocery store and I'll like give you a 20 and then give you like 32 cents and expect you to do the math. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm that type of person.
yeah, it's
So
something.
I'm always still trying to like when people ask, I can do like math really quick in my head, and people are like, "Oh, I didn't know you could do that," and I'm like, "Yeah, numbers and equations kind of clearly and easily." So like, there's a small part of it that's like still there and functioning, but I'm not like I remember when I first met another comedian who is a mathematician, and most of his jokes are math jokes. I remember when I first met him. His name is Samuel B. We hosted a Netflix show together, and he's like, "Okay, so I know that you studied math. So what math jokes are you doing so that we don't step on each other's toes?" And I was like, "Sammy, you could have it all.
That's sweet.
I'm not I'm not doing any math on stage. You can have all of it. Do all the math material you need to do. It's yours."
Yeah. Yeah. Don't step on anybody else's niche. That's interesting. Um, I had one more question for you.
Okay.
I thought your authenticity shined so brightly in this special. And I loved the detail that you included about how you kept the $100 that the Wayans brothers gave you, and how
Yeah.
it reflected on the first time you were paid for your comedy after driving to Sacramento, which is, I hate driving. I would never do that, but I give you all the props for doing that, for your career. Since this is your very first comedy special and it's very important. How does it feel to have come so far and made so many waves in this industry, especially since, like you were saying, you had not ever considered being a comedian?
Yeah. Um, it feels good. It feels really good. I think with any artist, there's a desire to get the art out. And I think there's different milestones, and it is a task. I think sometimes when the public watches a comedian that's really good, it looks so easy. But I think that it's a task to craft an hour. Um, and I'm really proud of this one. I feel like it really is personal. It really gives my audience an insight into who I am. I do feel like it's funny. And if I never got to do anything again, I would be happy with this product representing my time in this space.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's an incredible perspective. And I loved talking to you. You were a delight. I wish I could talk to
Oh,
you for hours. But it's been great. And I'm really excited
yeah.
to see more work that you put out. I know you kind of hinted in another interview that you were looking to start a TV show about someone in your situation. I don't know if you're allowed to talk about that, but I think that sounds awesome. And I would definitely
Yeah.
watch. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely like, well, one, it's been a pleasure talking to you as well, Alyssa. And yeah, I think in the future, people can definitely look for something in the TV space that's very much based on, my life. It is tricky to talk about right now, just because we are, I do stand in solidarity with my union. We are on strike. We're trying to get, better terms for all the actors, but definitely in the future, there's things to look. There are branches of what you see on the special, and in different genres, whether it be film or television, to definitely look out for me. Absolutely.
Amazing. All right. Well, like I said, it's been lovely and it's been great meeting you. And yeah, best of luck with
Same.
everything. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.